we also need to fill up around 1,000 vacancies. So doon po sa gustong magtrabaho sa Department of Migrant Workers, pakiabangan na lang po yung aming announcement ng vacancies, which we will also need to clear and coordinate this information with the civil service.
Good afternoon, Malacanang Press Corps. Happy New Year. Great to be back. Okay, we have a few announcements, and let me start with a wonderful announcement. Nanumpa na si Attorney Cheloy Valicaria Garafil ngayong araw, January 10, kay Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. bilang bagong kalihim ng Presidential Communications Office, matapos maging tagapangasiwa ng ahensya sa loob ng halos 4 na buwan. Bago maging kalihim ng PCO, namuno si Secretary Garafil bilang unang hepe ng Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB sa ilalim ng PBBM administration at dating State Solicitor ng Office of the Solicitor General. Unang nagsilbi ang PCO Secretary bilang Media Director at Public Relations Officer ng dating Pangulong Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Siya rin ay isang journalist sa loob ng halos na 10 taon sa iba't ibang pahayagan at newswires tulad ng Malaya, the Philippine Daily Globe, Central News Agency at Associated Press. So let's congratulate Secretary Garafil. All right. So today there was a cabinet meeting. It was the continuation of the last meeting of 2022. The President met with the entire cabinet and heard the presentations of the remaining 12 departments. We had the Department of Justice, DILG, Department of Agriculture, Education, Labor and Employment, DSWD, Agrarian Reform, Health, Migrant Workers, DENR, DOST, and DOE. Now, some highlights. The Department of Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla presented achievements in 2022 and plans for 2023. He highlighted the Justice Department's theme of compassionate justice, in keeping with the directive of the President, who asked that he check on legal representation of prisoners based on the President's experience in Ilocos Norte, where he remembered that many prisoners did not have access to lawyers. And moving on to the Department of Education, the Secretary VP Inday Sara Duterte presented the plans for inclusive learning, support for teachers, improving the curriculum. The DEP'T will be presenting a revised K-12 curriculum for basic ed in January 30th. The theme of DEP'T is Bansang Makabata at Batang Makabansa. The DSWD, it should be noted that the President had asked the DSWD to always remain ready and on heightened alert, as it seems that the rains this season are not letting up, so we must remain vigilant. And before the end of the meeting, the President wanted all the department heads to remember that to know what each other is doing and to maximize the synergy and in order to work together to achieve the 8-point socioeconomic agenda. And now we move on to the spotlight of today. Ngayong hapon, makakasama natin ang Secretary of Migrant Workers na si Secretary Susan Toots Ople para bigyan tayo ng impormasyon sa kanyang ahensya.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you for inviting us sa Department of Migrant Workers. Bakit kayo may butas dito? Nakaka-intrigue. Ha? Sa water. Okay. Sorry ha. Na-OOC ako kasi parang gusto ko siya i-tape. Anyway, bibigyan naman kayo ng yung accomplishment namin. So, siguro just to emphasize a few figures. Some may not be in the slide presentation. For the first time, so we were released our first ever budget for the first quarter. Thank you to DBM and of course our legislators. So 566 million for the first quarter of this year. Our total GAA budget is 15.8 billion. So broken down into OSEC 4.1 billion, OWA 11.7 billion for frontline services to our OFWs. This year, we will also be establishing 16 regional offices. We also need to fill up around 1,000 vacancies. So doon po sa gustong magtrabaho sa Department of Migrant Workers, pakiabangan na lang po yung aming announcement ng vacancies, which we will also need to clear and coordinate this information with the civil service. All right. We will also be adding 4 migrant workers offices. Offhand, we are looking at Bangkok, Thailand. We are also considering Guam and 2 more TBD to be declared because we are assessing the needs of our workers and we are looking at employability, foreign employment opportunities, the size of the OFW population, as well as welfare cases in those countries, vulnerability of our workers in those countries. So we have a criteria for choosing which countries or territories deserve or are in need. Siyempre, lahat of them are in need, no? But those that we will prioritize for this year. Okay? Coming soon, new rules for the land-based and sea-based workers with ease of doing business as one of the guideposts. Gusto sana namin yung rules na yon simplified and easy to read, hindi na kailangan ng abogado para maintindihan. Yung previous rules kasi, they were all published and they were all formulated under POEA. So ngayon, we have to come out with our own rules, which is why after this meeting, I have a dialogue with our recruitment agency owners to discuss this and other matters as well. All right, scholarships, 37,949 through OWA. These are the children of our OFWs. We are also emphasizing the need for socio-cultural and educational activities and support for children of OFWs based sa instruction ng ating presidente. So we for last year, we were able to provide such activities to 9,778 OFW children. We are in discussion with DEP'T on how to develop in-school programs in support of OFW children. For example, support for textbooks, support for mental health, yung mga ganong klase. One of our key objectives is to increase the number of deployed OFWs for this year. From July to November of last year, 486,673 lang yung na-deploy natin. For the land-based, nasa 352,911. Sea-based, 219,869. The good news is that there are several emerging markets. We have invitations pending for bilateral labor talks with Romania, Hungary, and Portugal. We are also looking into the possibility I met with the Minister of Labor and Welfare of Hong Kong yesterday, Minister Chris Sun, or Sun, S-U-N, and he broached the possibility of exploratory talks on the deployment of Filipino caregivers to Hong Kong. But early stage pa ito. We need to send a team to Hong Kong to meet with his team as well. We are also closely working with the DOJ on illegal recruitment and human trafficking cases. Of course, you are all familiar with the situation in Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. We continue to remain maintain a tight watch on the online illegal recruitment and trafficking of our workers to those places. Kanina, after my presentation, the President also again stressed the need to help our seafarers. So tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m., we will have a virtual signing of a memorandum of understanding with several organizations of foreign ship owners based in the EU, as well as international maritime organizations, to form the first ever International Advisory Committee on Global Maritime Affairs, IAC GMA, to be headed by yours truly. And we have discussed with the following departments the idea of them also joining as advisors as part of the council. And so far, we have received positive messages from the DFA, from DOTR and Marina, and also the DANR, because of the net zero campaign of the International Maritime Organization for decarbonization and new technologies to power the ships. And a lot of training will have to be undertaken for that. So ang tawag nila doon, just transition. So DNR will also be joining the IACGMA. Konti na lang. OFW Hospital from July up to December, the OFW Hospital in Mabalacat, Pampanga was able to provide free medical consultations, and also with the help of OWA, to over 6,000 family members. And around 1,500 OFWs directly benefited from 21.8 million cash assistance as medical coverage for dreaded diseases. For more information about that, I would invite you to get in touch with Administrator Arnel Ignacio of OWA. Shelters, we are sending a team to Kuwait to look at how we can decongest the shelter there. We are tapping also the social welfare attachés of DSWD who are now part of the department for their expertise on how to upgrade our shelters overseas for overseas workers. Mahalaga po na very humane, dignified, and comfortable and safe ang ating mga residences, temporary residences for our distressed OFWs across the globe. So with that, I think we will just share our presentation with the help of PCO. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sec Ople. Job Manahan, ABS-CBN News Online.
Good afternoon po, Secretary Ople. May update po ba regarding dun sa pag-release ng back pay dun
Ah,
sa
yes.
Saudi workers.
Oo, nakakaligtaan ko yun. Yung sa unpaid salaries, no? Yung dapat sana December kami tutuloy, but upon the request of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development o MHRSD, yun ang aming counterpart sa Saudi Arabia. They requested for more time to arrange our visit dahil yung sa unpaid claims, hindi pala sa kanila yun nakaatang. So they wanted time for certain arrangements to be made so that when I go there, I will be able to meet with the right person in the office of the Crown Prince. So as of yesterday, they promised that they will give us the itinerary and schedule for the Saudi trip within the week. So we are waiting for that. But definitely, ang agreement is that that is number 1 in the agenda.
Follow-up lang po. May estimate po kaya kung magkano yung matatanggap ng mga OFWs natin? Tapos, may, aside po dun sa na-mention, may time frame pa po kaya na tinitingnan?
I want to be very cautious and prudent job na ang gusto ko, pag nakausap ko na, tsaka kami magre-release ng information kasi alam nyo, emotionally charged yung issue. Yesterday, I met with some of the claimants and kasi nga may mga kung ano-ano lumalabas sa Facebook. So sabi ko, medyo chill lang. Alam ko mahirap dahil marami umasa ng Pasko. Pero the ball kasi is really in Saudi Arabia's court eh. So I want to be quite prudent and responsible. Wala akong sasabihin about it until we finally meet in Saudi Arabia with the officials that are tasked to work this out with us. And until then, hindi muna kami magbibigay ng any specifics out of respect na rin sa aming kakausapin sa Saudi Arabia.
Okay, Kat Domingo, ABS-CBN.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, during President Marcos's state visit to Indonesia in September, the Philippines filed or asked the Indonesian government for an executive clemency for Mary Jane Veloso. May we get an update on that case?
Yes, per agreement with the Department of Foreign Affairs, kasi yung institutional memory dun sa kaso na yon lies with them. And I think during the visit of the President to Indonesia, it was Secretary Manalo who raised this issue with his counterpart. So we will have to defer to the DFA pagdating doon. And just as an FYI, on Friday, the Executive Secretary will be convening a meeting. To be present in that meeting are the Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Foreign Affairs, myself, and of course the ES, to discuss transitional matters. For example, yun nga, mga death row cases, yung pag-transfer ng ATN work from the ATN officers of our embassies to our migrant workers attachés, the kind of training that's needed to capacitate them in preparation for that very delicate job. So, sa Friday po yun, we will be discussing those matters.
Alvin Baltasar, Radyo Pilipinas.
Secretary, magandang hapon po. Secretary, doon sa nabanggit nyo na 1,000 na opening na positions sa DMW, ilan po doon yung plantilla positions at saka ilan po yung i-hire nyo na COS?
I think those are all plantilla items. Kasi don't forget we're a new department and magsiset up kami ng regional offices. So even I think majority ng mga empleyado na yung na-subsume namin, wala kaming inalis except for those na talagang may ibang career plans, no? But most of them really were absorbed by the DMW, and yet kulang pa. So we are going to issue specific details regarding what kind of vacancies are there. We have formed a screening panel, and we will be working closely with the Civil Service Commission regarding this.
Secretary, can you give us at least an idea on ano-ano yung mga positions na may open?
Of course, may need kami for lawyers, may need din kami for even entry-level staff. Iba-iba eh. Something as basic as yung social media team namin. So kung meron ditong aplikante, please let me know. Need din namin ng writers. So, but syempre, mes klaro, pati ko anong salary grade, yung mga qualifications, lahat niyan ilalabas namin in the spirit of transparency and inclusivity, and even yung mga ex-OFWs, if they want to apply, or even if they are abroad and they want to apply, I mean, the door is open. Yun lang nga, syempre competitive yan, and we want a very professionally run department. So, yung padrino system, pwedeng, we will look at the qualifications of each candidate.
Alan Francisco, PTV.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon. In the previous state visits of President Marcos sa ibang bansa, priority po niya, binibisita niya yung mga Filipino. So are we expecting that when he visits in Switzerland, he will also do the same, visiting the Filipino community, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm sure na si Daphne will brief you. Probably, kasi forthcoming na yung Davos eh. Probably in your next briefing. Kasi ayoko pangunahan. I mean, I know the answer, pero baka hindi dapat magmula sa amin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, last question, Ivan Mayrina, GMA7.
Hi, Sec. You mentioned that there are ongoing bilateral labor talks with Romania, Hungary, Portugal, and even Hong Kong may in-export the full-time possibilities doon. How much of these talks can be directly attributed to the President's visits in different countries in the last few months? And this year, ano-ano po kaya yung mga magmamaterialize o yung mga magbubunga sa mga agreements na na-forge dito sa mga nakarang pagbisita na ito that will open up jobs for Filipinos?
Yeah, alam mo, a lot of it is really can be attributed to the President's popularity, but we also have to give a shout out as well dun sa reputation, excellent reputation ng Filipino workers. But the visits that we've had pave a way for a lot of these new conversations. For example, yung Singapore, we signed a joint statement or communique with the Minister of Health. But this March, we have to go there to finalize the implementation protocols naman kasi they would like to hire more Filipino health workers. Yung sa Portugal naman, ang initial discussion namin is that I need to go there during this first quarter. And yun naman, tourism sector din ang isa sa mga kinakailangan nila. For the President's visit in Japan, we will also be renewing a bilateral labor agreement. This will be a very busy year for the DMW kasi yung mga bilateral labor agreements na existing and about to expire were with DOLE. So now we have to renew na kami na yung signatory. So, yun. And let's not forget na dahil na-lift na namin yung Saudi Arabia, I think initially we are looking at 6,000 new hires for Saudi Arabia alone, no? For now until March. Nagkakaproblema na lang sa booking ng flights. dahil nasabay sa holiday season, so doon nagkakahirapan.